Sorry, guys. That was not my fault. I don't know what that was. That was a straight up StreamYard glitch. Could you hear the music when I came in? I should be back now. I should be back now. Oh, I love how my face is on Rockfin when it froze. All right. Are we back? You got sound now? Okay. Did you guys hear the music when I came in? Man, this is frustrating because I just wasted like 5 minutes. Yes to the music? Okay. I wasted 5 minutes of this broadcast on this crap. That was not my fault. That was StreamYard. That was StreamYard. Some StreamYard glitch. I had to go out of StreamYard and unplug my mic and go back in. And so now, okay. All right. Okay, fine. We're here. Okay. All right, we're all here and everything is fine. And you didn't hear music. And Obsolete Optics gave me a tip. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Also, wanted to let you all know I got a tip after hours the other day from Andy Pants on this is the show on Thursday, and also Obsolete Optics tipped me on Thursday as well. So thank you guys. All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I apologize. I don't know. Things happen. What can I say? That's life in the big world of streaming, video streaming. Sometimes things glitch out. All right. So what we're gonna do today, I did want to talk about a few things. Oh, hey, we have a caller already. Well, this is Friday Fix on Saturday, so I wanted to move yesterday's show kind of to today, which is something we're gonna do something more of a like an open format. So feel free to call in or whatever. We'll kind of talk about a bunch of things, but I do want to talk about a few things specifically. What's up, Lightning? Are you there?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
I think good. How you doing?
Hey, hey, it's a real pleasure to talk to you, and I'm glad I was able to call in.
Yeah.
And
What's
I
up?
wanted to say thank you for everything that you do for us.
Oh man, thank you so much.
If I could, I'd like to relate a story that happened to me yesterday, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I go into a place in Thunder Bay called the Sports Complex. It's cost me $2. I don't have a membership. It's a sauna and a hot tub and a pool, and weight room. Kind of a community center sort of a deal. And we're in the hot tub, and it's a huge thing. It's more like a pool, bubbly pool. And a fella came in, and he was, about 10 times too loud. So really, he wasn't talking to his friend. He was talking to the pool about a range of topics: Trump, guns, trans rights.
Mm-hmm. Oh shoot, we lost him. Oh dang it. I don't know what happened. Lightning, if you're there, you can call back in. I think Lightning lost his connection. Oh, that's too bad. We were getting into a story, and then the story just ended all of a sudden. I hate when that happens because I want to hear what the story is. All right, Lightning, if you want to call back in, go ahead and finish your story. I don't know what happened there, but I see you. Calling can be weird because I think the buttons can be confusing, and so Lightning, if you can make it back, go ahead and call in. Anyways, this is today. We're the format of the Friday show over to Saturday because I didn't have a show yesterday. What happened was a friend of mine was here from out of town, and he we were just hanging out. We were gonna hang out and play some music and things like that. And he kind of needed a place to like chill out until he took his plane back. He's actually lives in Costa Rica, so musician friend. So we were just hanging out, like playing some music, and I just didn't really have the space or the time to do the show yesterday, and that's what happened. So it was for a good cause. I did not do the show yesterday for a good cause, right? Hanging out with an old friend I don't get to see very often. That's my story. Okay, so we're just going to hit a couple of things. Understanding sustainability. I like this tweet because understanding sustainability as it pertains to population. Here's a graph. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And, people have all kinds of ideas about what is, what is sustainable as a population, or what's, sustainability is a bad word, or something. But like, I don't know. You can look at just graphs and data and stuff. If this applied to any other animal but humans, anybody in the world, scientist or layperson, would go, well, let's say the population of rhinoceroses, propoceroses. The population of rhinoceroses was, usually around, 500,000, 500 million, something like that, right? Who knows, maybe less. And all of a sudden, because a change in the weather, a bumper crop of whatever it is rhinoceroses eat. I don't even know what they eat. Sorry, I'm not up on my rhinoceros facts. But let's say rhinoceroses went to 7 billion rhinoceroses, right? Everybody would go, what are all these rhinoceroses doing here? Like, this is crazy. Right? There's 7 billion rhinoceroses, and they are eating everything. What are we gonna, you know what I mean? Like, it would be a problem if there were 7 billion rhinoceroses, but 7 billion humans? Oh no, absolutely not. You cannot have a conversation about that. You can't bring it up. You are a crazy person. You're a lunatic. You're a Malthusian. Blah blah blah. Get by. Right. So, I understand that people have concerns about, evil humans doing things to just regular old humans who are unsuspecting, unwitting players in the game, right? And the evil humans want to, depopulate the unsuspecting, unwitting players in the game, because they're evil and they have evil plans. I get all that. But the reality is, it doesn't really matter your particular political bent or, your theory on who's doing who. It doesn't really matter. If you look at this graph, if this graph was rhinoceroses and not humans, you'd be like, man, those rhinoceroses, something's got to be done, right? Something has got to be done, because these and it happens all the time with other animals, right? Wolves, wild boars, right? We have, a wild boar problem, and people are like, man, we got to kill these wild boars. We got to kill them. Like, they're going straight eugenicist on the wild boars, right? They're going straight depopulation agenda on the wild boars. If it was, right, any other animal, these creatures are absolutely just overrunning everything. We cannot have it. And straight depopulation agenda, like straight, who are you going to kill first? Depopulation agenda on these wild boars or whatever they are. And just because somebody has a conversation like that about humans doesn't mean they necessarily want to, who you're going to kill first. That doesn't mean that. But the fact that you can't have a conversation around it is sheer lunacy. It's absolute madness. And is only, a non, conversation because we have decided we are exempt from natural laws. Natural laws do not apply to us, and we are, we're better, we're bigger, we're stronger, we're faster. We are the bionic men. I don't know. Gene says, Kevin, my concern is that some people consume and impact the planet negatively 15 to 30 times more than others, and they only point out population. Well, sure. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. I hear you. There's another wrinkle to the story, which is Guy McPherson puts it pretty well when he says lock up the food, right? There's a whole story there about, the people in charge, locking up the resources, making the resource scarce in order to make people, run after the carrot, run on the hamster wheel. I got to get more. I got to get more. Or I got to get enough to eat, That is totally like a story out there. But the truth, the absolute truth of it is this graph lines up exactly with the graph of this graph lines up exactly with the graph of like oil consumption on the planet, right? It totally is like right in line, and burning of fossil fuels, like it's right in line. Like it's actually, they all happen at the same time, right? So it's kind of I mean, it's just, I think that the reality is that you couldn't, let's say this. Gene, you brought up a good point. Thanks for understanding, Kevin. Jenny, I see you. I'm going to get to your call in a second. You said, thanks for understanding, Kevin. It sometimes feels racist to me. Well, here's a really like crazy, here's a crazy, I think I've talked about this before, and this is probably going to sound racist, but I'm going to say it because it's just, I'm not talking about race per se. I'm talking about how we deal with, there's a thing about locking up the food. There's a thing about creating a thing of scarcity so that people do all the things to get the bare necessities, the basics. And there's also a thing about large populations in countries that don't have our technological prowess, that don't have the ability to lock up enough food for people to eat over a span of time, years, right? And it's happening now. It happens right now. And it's been happening over the last, definitely over the last century, which is populations of people in places, you could say, I don't know, Africa or in, other places where they just don't have the ability to like save food, put food away. And then you have, traditional, through history, we've had famines, right? Points in history where the weather shifted, something happened, and the ability to grow enough food to feed people changed. And all of a sudden, famine. And what we've done in the last century is instead of nature taking its course, and I know this is a messed up conversation, instead of nature taking its course and people just dying away because there's not enough food, we go, oh my God, we got to do, all the wealthy countries of the world that have all the grain stores and have locked up all the food and have all the stuff, have all the wealth, ship all this food to the starving people to keep them alive, right? Through the years of famine or drought or whatever it's going to be, right? So all these people, a lot of people die. Some people, survive to what? To go on to, live longer lives, produce more children, increase the population, right? And as standards of living around the world have grown, because even that has changed, right? We don't have there are a lot of situations in other parts of the world where standards of living have risen enough, medical care has risen enough, right? That they are able to sustain a population, that's much larger than they used to be able to sustain. I'm just talking about data and facts. I'm sorry. It sounds as an icky conversation. So regardless of, whether you live in a wealthy nation or a not wealthy nation, the ability to feed ourselves beyond these like natural dangers of like famine and starvation, right, and loss of crops, that's what's contributed to the population. So it's actually, you could say it's racist, but it has nothing to do with that. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with the wealth of the planet contributing to the problem. Even if all these people over here are consuming way more than people in India, right, or China or Africa, all these people are consuming way more. That's a problem. But their ability to like lock up the food and consume more and have all the wealth and have all this, stuff and burn all the oil, like when these people traditionally have gotten into trouble in the last century, oh hey, we're going to ship you all this food so you all can not starve. And that creates a global thing where it's just like there's 8 billion people on the planet. Some of the largest cities on the planet are in places with a way lower standard of living than us, right? Like where are the fastest growing cities on the planet? Where are the fastest growing populations? They're in places where, they have lower standard of living, but they have just enough standard of living so that, these populations can just explode. I don't know if it's racist or not. I don't know. I'm not really sure. The thing is, here's the thing though. It's like in reality, it's like our ability to overcome these natural, threats to our survival. That's why there's 8 billion people on the planet. So you can either have a compassionate, logical conversation about, the issue of population, or you can allow nature to eventually take its course, which is that the population is going to crash, right? Either, the end of our technological prowess, the end of our ability to sustain 8 billion people on the planet, because that will come. That's going to happen, right? We're going to reach the end of that prowess, and we're going to hit a wall, and we're going to crash. And or what if what if we say, this is life, we have a limited amount of time, we're all human animals on the planet Earth, and nobody's promised eternal life on this planet, right? What if, and it's a weird conversation, right? Like, at what point do we let nature take its course? And that's a conversation people have right now, right? How long do we keep people alive in the hospital who are vegetables? How long do we keep people alive, who are, nobody's suggesting you kill the elderly because they can't function anymore. However, why can't we talk about that? Like, at what point does your life, not really, is it not, your quality of life is not so great? Like, why are you, if you're confined to a bed, or if you're confined to, you just really can't do anything else. You are literally kind of a vegetable, right? You can't really do much more in life. And I agree that it should be everybody's own personal decision, but like, at what point are we keeping people alive? Why are we keeping people alive for a long time who are not experiencing? And who gets to decide whether their experience of life is worth carrying on or not? I'm just having a conversation. That's all. I'm just putting these things out here. I'm not saying, but why can't we have that conversation? All right. I want to move on to another subject, but it is a hard subject. But, I actually, I have to say, honestly, Gene, and I appreciate you bringing it up. I kind of bristle at the racist thing, because that's one of the reasons why you can't have this conversation. People, immediately go, well, that's racist, or that's eugenicist, or that's Malthusian, right? You can't talk about it on the left. You can't talk about it on the right. You can't talk about it anywhere, because people have decided this is a bad conversation, and this is why. Because it's racist, it's fascist, it's eugenicist, it's Malthusian, it's blah, blah, blah. But it's actually, I'm sorry to say this, it's actually unintelligent. It's unintelligent to say we can't have this conversation. It's a lack of it's a lack of being able to actually view ourselves through a lens of reality. And it's a fault. It's a fault in our being. I don't know, whatever. I don't I can see how people can interpret it as racist, but I reject that it's a racist conversation. I reject it outright because it's not, that's not, some people might say that because they're not great people, but other people want to have intelligent conversations about this, and to immediately say it's racist, then you close down the conversation. I don't know. You're just telling me from yeah, I get it. That's fine. I get it. I mean, some people feel like that it is that. I hope that people can get past that. I hope that we can start moving past that reason why we can't talk about population, because it actually suppresses the ability for us to actually have to see ourselves in a proper, realistic light. All right, Jenny, how you doing?
That was chilling.
Chilling.
Oh gosh, I've never heard you talk at that level of what I would perceive malevolence. I
It's
mean,
not malevolent,
this.
not at all.
No,
It
we
has,
can talk about it. I'm not saying you can't talk about it. I'm just saying
but why do you
this
why do you think it's malevolent?
the casual tone of your voice of like, you know, we just have to grapple with this and we just have to think it through. And it's like
Well, why can't
these are
why is that
life or death issues.
Of course they are. I'm not saying. I mean, you can judge the way I'm talking about something, but again, are you judging the way I'm talking about it, or are you judging the subject matter?
I'm saying that when we're discussing life, there should be a reverence. There should be a spiritual side to it that feels like you're just not even tapping into. And I've read Thomas Sowell, and I love him. I think he's the greatest economist that America's ever produced. He has theorized that the earth could easily sustain 1 trillion people.
That is just, oh my
A
God.
trillion.
No. It
A
cannot.
trillion.
It cannot. And let me tell you why. I mean, that's wildly, I mean, that's just fantastical. That is fantastical. And I'll tell you why. Because what people fail to realize is that there are ecosystems that are required to keep. We talked about this, I think, a week or two ago. Because, for every hawk, for every deer, for every bear, for, you know what I mean? All the animals in their ecosystems, they require like a certain amount of like wilderness in order to live, right? Like elephants, animals that are in the wild require like, it's not just about the food that they're eating. It's not just they can't just exist on a little patch of forest, right? Or they can't, you can't, if you put an elephant in a zoo, right, and said, here's your patch of land, the elephant is going to die unless somebody brings it food, right? Right? Am I right? So, the amount of wilderness and ecosystem it takes to actually keep a certain number of animals alive, and we are animals. We are animals. We are human animals, but we are animals. We rely on all the same things that all other animals rely on, which is food, water, air, right? All those things. It requires a certain amount of ecosystem to keep a human alive. So when people say stuff like all the humans can fit in the state of Texas, or all the humans can fit in the state of Alaska, or all the humans can, no, that's not how it works, because you need all humans use a certain amount of resources. So we have 8 billion people on the planet, and in the United States, it is calculated that we use 5 Earths worth of resources every year. How is that sustainable? Now, imagine putting 1 trillion people. Where are the resources going to come from for 1 trillion people? Like what? How is that going to happen? Are we gonna grow our food in, are we going to eat mold slimes? Are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? And if there's 1 trillion people on the planet, where are all the other things going to live that need to live on this planet to keep us alive? Right? We are part of a whole. We are part of a whole, Jenny.
Well, I question the notion that you just sort of tossed out.
Again, don't. Look. I'm not.
Can I
I don't.
say it?
No.
Can
I
I
don't.
say it?
No. I don't. I don't appreciate you calling my tone of voice casual, because this listen, here's another way to look at it. If we don't have a conversation about how many people are on the planet, we are going to crash into a wall where billions of people are going to die, Jenny. And so telling people that they are wrong for having this conversation is actually committing billions of people to death. And and that's messed up.
I'm here having the conversation with you.
I know, but you keep saying like I'm just casually tossing out these things.
Well,
it's not casual. It's not. How else am I supposed to say it? Am I supposed to say it like? Am I supposed to say it? Well, I'm just saying. Am I supposed to be like? I don't know. Am I supposed to be really soft? Am I supposed to be like? Life is so important, and how are we going to do this? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. My tone doesn't matter. The thing that matters is the data. It's the data. It's the reality matters. Okay. So,
do you want to have a conversation, or just listen to yourself talk? Okay. When you said that there is no eternal living on this earth, my faith teaches me just the opposite. The meek are going to inherit the earth. And my faith specifically, I'm a Mormon, we have a teaching that the earth is going to be renewed and receive this celestial glory and turn into a garden state. And that all of the people who have ever been born on this earth, billions and billions of souls who are the meek, will inherit this earth. So that is my belief system. And
okay. That's fine.
I do not believe anything you said.
Okay,
around,
that's fine. You're free to, and Jenny, you're free to believe that.
We're all going to die.
Yeah, we're all going to die. Are you going to die, Jenny?
We are all going to die. It's true. Okay. It's true. But I believe I'm going to be resurrected, and I'm hoping to be one of the ones who gets to inherit this earth. Now, I called you today to talk about Twitter and Whitney Webb and all this other stuff.
That's fine. I mean, I'm actually about to
get
I'm about to get into that stuff. But what do you want to say? What do you want to say about Twitter?
I was gobsmacked that you were talking that way, because I hadn't heard that side of you before. I'm sorry. I'm unfairly judging you. I admit it. But
that's fine.
And
I don't.
It honestly surprised me.
I don't share your belief system, and that's okay. I don't have to believe what you believe, and you don't have to believe what I believe. But it's like I mean, your reaction to what I'm saying is kind of proves my point. Which is that when you talk about this stuff, people really just are like, "Whoa, man, I can't do that." Right? Like, it's a really hard conversation to have. It's a hard conversation.
Well,
I understand.
It goes to your question of who gets to decide.
Right.
Oh, you're about to give birth to a Down syndrome baby. We can't have that. We're going to abort that baby for you. Oh, your grandma, she's just costing the taxpayers too much with the Medicare. We're going to have to send her packing.
Those are weird, icky conversations. Yes.
They are.
I agree.
They're very
painful.
With
you. Listen, Jenny, I've like run out of time almost, and I have a bunch of other callers lined up, and I know you wanted to talk about the Twitter thing. But thank you for calling in. Okay.
I don't mean to dog you, honestly.
It's okay. It's fine. I know you've called in before. I'm not upset at what you were saying. I just, whatever. I can take things to heart sometimes. All right. Thanks, Jenny.
I take things to heart too.
Yeah, I got you. All right. Peace. All right. I'm going to take this other caller. I do want to move on to this next subject. And, maybe later, Jenny, if you want to call in, if we have a little time later, if you want to call back in, that's fine. Okay. John, how you doing? Hello, John, you're on.
Yeah, sorry, it was like switching over or something.
I know it's.
I had just tuned in and caught the very end of that. But now I hear you say you want to move on to another subject. What was the subject, and what subject are you trying to move on to?
I'm actually trying to move on to the Twitter. There was the Twitter files that Elon Musk released, or Elon said they were being released, but Matt Taibbi did a whole thread on it about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what happened with that?
Mostly. I don't know if there's been I think there's supposed to be another update today, but I didn't.
Well, I was actually gonna read through the Twitter files, and but if
were these yesterday's Twitter files?
Yes, Matt Taibbi's Twitter, his thread on Twitter. I thought.
And the previous topic was abortion.
No, It was overpopulation.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, if you want to, it's your show, and if you want to move on to the next subject, you should.
Do you have any thoughts on overpopulation? Or do you not, or you prefer not to even go there? I know a lot of people.
Very high level. Eugenics is for God, not for us. We should not be. We shouldn't worry about such things. We should worry about taking care of each other. If we're highly populated, lowly populated, these each bring very unique kinds of problems.
Yeah.
And I would say that the high population problem is probably harder because resource management. But hey, good thing you have more people to work on it then.
Right. Somebody said that in the chat.
Yeah,
we have plenty of people to work on the problem, I guess, so.
Yeah, it's a good thing. And, one example I've heard, I forget who said this, but apparently right when we invented the automobile, or, Ford invented that automobile, one of the things that people were really struggling with as population was going up was how are we going to deal with like all the horse poop everywhere? And it was a big deal, but it was rendered moot by some new technology that they didn't they didn't realize was about to pop up and completely revolutionize the way we transport things and, create new problems like carbon emissions and stuff like that. But the point is, I trust that these kinds of things are solvable. And if they're not solvable, well, the last thing we want to do is kill people to prevent it.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, yeah. What I was saying earlier is that, when you're talking about the population of humans on the planet, right? Like if that level of population growth happened in any other wild animal, we would be literally, and we do that with other wild animals, right? Wild boars, anything we deem to be a nuisance, we just hunt them down, right? We absolutely are like, this is a problem. We can't have,
well,
we can't have, because it's encroaching on us, but we are actually encroaching, on them. And to take it a step further, we're encroaching on ourselves, right? Because if we encroach, and we encroach on the level of resources that are available on the planet, we eventually just foul our own nest, and the planet becomes uninhabitable, and we all die anyway. So it's just so you actually have to kind of go into the to not have the conversation actually condemns a lot of people to death, right? And so it's like it's a funny thing, it's
here's a really interesting point to that. So one, humans and animals, we're not the same.
But we are animals. Levels. But we require all the things that other animals require.
We are creatures of this earth, just like animals are. But at the very least, I would even argue for a dolphin. A dolphin should not see the rest of the animal kingdom as it sees other dolphins. Probably not, right? But I think it's beyond that. I think humans are made special. But even if that's not the case, and we use your analogy that if we decide like there's too many deers around, we go and we kill a bunch of the deer, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, right. Fine. So if one group now deer aren't going to really fight back because they might try to defend themselves to not die, but they're not really they're not
equipped
to kill.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But wolves, if there's too many wolves around, we might go out and kill some wolves. It would be reasonable for those wolves to defend themselves and kill you first, right?
Sure.
So what's slowly going to happen with the people who think it's okay to go around killing all these humans, or not allowing people to have children, or whatever the thing is, they're exercising eugenics in one way or another. These people have a right to defend themselves against their oppressor, and it's sad, and we're just going to be fighting civil, wars among humans for the rest of eternity.
But if
you came to my house,
here's how we're kids. Yeah, but hold on. Here's actually the point. Here I think is a really like, here's the point at which humans are different from other animals. We have the ability to not succumb to just nature, right, taking us out, right? We have the ability to see ourselves and what we're doing and change course, change direction, change our actions, right? Other animals, right? If an animal herd is overpopulating a certain region of the the wilderness, right? What they're going to do is eat themselves out of existence, right? And it happens all the time in nature, over and over again, right? That's nature.
Are you talking cannibalism, or are you
No.
talking like,
they just
like
eat
starvation?
Like they eat. There's.
So let that
it
happen.
happens all the time in nature where like
So let that happen. Let that happen with people.
okay.
Like let people. I'm not saying we shouldn't like make people starve, but if groups of people make bad decisions and they starve themselves out because their population and their resource management doesn't align, that is much better than going out there purposely trying to trim them down, like hunting them
Well,
like wolves or deer, like you
and
said,
I brought that up earlier in that we have overcome famine. Famine, was a way that human populations, went down,
Yeah.
right? Like in the past. In some areas of the planet, humans got themselves to a point where they're like, well, we can store enough food for, years ahead, so we're not going to starve in a famine, right, anytime soon. But in other places of the world, people were dying of famine, right? So then once we got to a certain level of technology, we were like, oh, you guys are starving from famine? Why don't we give you some of our food that we've saved up, right? And this is how the global population has gone to 8 billion, right? That's exactly how it's gotten to 8 billion. So
yeah. It's amazing.
by not letting people starve, right? So that's
I
know
it's
that's
good.
a weird thing to say. We're overpopulated because we don't let people starve when nature says, hey, it's time for you to go. But
that's the good thing. Like not letting people starve, like that's good. Like we can go in and save people. That's a good thing. We can leave it alone and let them fend for themselves, let nature take its course. That's okay too. Where I draw the line is when we start saying, no, we get to choose who gets to live or not.
yeah,
Like letting somebody die
Yeah.
is not the same as killing them.
but
right?
who decides at what point? It's still a decision because it's like, and it's still hard. That's
a different decision,
that's a decision that's like, what I'm saying is though. The last point, and I got to let you go after this. No problem. The last point I wanted
you let me on.
The last point I wanted to make was, we are not deers or boars or rhinoceroses, right? We they're just going to eat themselves out of house and home until their population crashes, and we are actually doing exactly the same thing because we can't have this conversation, but we are actually smart enough to have a conversation about it and say, well, what is the solution to this? What is the solution? Is it letting people starve? I don't know. I don't think that sounds very nice. Or is it, hey, we have the ability to have sex and not procreate because we're humans and we're smart and we figured that out. But a lot of people are saying like, well, we can't do that. Why can't we do that? What, I mean, like, come on. We have the ability to not procreate and choose that, not say you can't have this kid or you're, right?
Yeah, I mean, if people
doesn't
not have kids,
but we could do we could do it as a
neuter them?
no,
Not okay.
no. I'm saying we have the ability to choose a better action, and so
Yeah, but a lot of us, especially so I'm Christian, a lot of us God-fearing folk that don't want to get involved with eugenics, we're not going to choose that, and that's got to be okay.
I get
if it's
well.
not, then
we can go. I mean, here's my last example. If you have a household and you have a certain amount of you have a certain budget, right? You only make so much money a year, and you have 2 kids, and you're talking to your wife about having another kid, and you're like, it would be really nice, but we can't afford it. We can't afford it. We don't have enough money, right? We don't have the resources to have another child. And so that is actually just a decision based on like logic, right? That's not eugenicist. There's nothing eugenicist about that. Hey,
no, I think when somebody chooses their own,
yeah,
it's fine.
but we don't have
when you start choosing for others,
right? But so whether you're Christian or not, once people see that there are a finite amount of resources on the planet, and we only have enough to go around, even if everything's shared fairly, we've got to make another decision, and that can be made on a community level, that could be made on a consensus level, right? Like, hey guys,
Sort of. So
Sort
you
of.
assume you assume a sort of socialistic world.
I
But
mean,
I wouldn't. I would say if I have like 7 kids, right, and I put in some labor and I'm growing, I'm farming some pigs and growing some crops. You're not going to come in and say, well, hold on, you got to share all this stuff with the rest of the community, and then therefore your kids will have to starve. Like, I think all of these issues are intertwined. Where if somebody's if somebody can't provide for his 7 kids, he probably shouldn't have an 8th kid. Like, I agree with you on that.
well,
But
so
also, if he is able to provide for his 7 kids, except for the fact that society is redistributing his wealth, that's a new issue.
okay, no, you bring up really good points. I'm laughing because we could go on in this
Yeah,
conversation.
I know you want to move on to the next topic, but
yeah.
So go ahead. I'm
All
sorry.
right, thank you, thanks, John.
Yeah, man.
All right. All right, we got one more caller. I really have to talk about this other story, and but it's fine. This is a good conversation. I think it's really important. It's necessary. I keep saying it's an important conversation, and nobody else is having a conversation, right? Because everybody's like, "Oh my god!" All right, what's up, Obsolete Optics?
I know you got to get on to the next subject, and I really want to hear this next subject, but I just wanted to jump in real quick and just express this overpopulation problem in simple terms that I think everyone can understand. Okay, so the overall birth rate, it's over twice the death rate. That's exponential. It's
right.
geometric growth.
Right.
It's like the wheat and chessboard problem, which is sometimes expressed in terms of rice grains. It's a mathematical problem expressed in textual form as if a chessboard were to have wheat placed upon each square such that 1 grain were placed on the first square, 2 on the second, 4 on the third, and so on, doubling the number of grains on each subsequent square, how many grains of wheat would be on the chessboard at the finish? This problem may be solved using simple addition. With 64 squares on a chessboard, if the number of grains doubles on successive squares, then the sum of grains on all 64 squares is 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus...
Yeah, and you end up with,
64 squares.
Right.
The total number of grains can be shown to be 2 to the 64th power minus 1, or 18 quintillion, 446 quadrillion, 744 trillion, 73 billion, 709,551,615, or over 1.4 trillion metric tons, which is over 2,000 times the annual world production of wheat.
Right.
This exercise can be used to demonstrate how quickly exponential sequences grow, as well as to introduce exponents, zero power, capital sigma notation, and geometric series. Updated for modern times using pennies and a hypothetical question such as, would you rather have $1 million or a penny on day 1 doubled every day until day 30? The formula has been used to explain compound interest.
Compound interest, yep.
Yeah, doubling would yield over 1,073,000,000 pennies, or over $10 million.
Right.
Or 2 to the 30th minus 1.
Yep. Well, I'm showing the graph on the screen again.
Yeah.
And you can see exponential is about what it is.
Yeah, it's a hockey stick.
It gets going straight up until it goes straight down. Basically that's how it's gonna happen. And the reason why I'm having this conversation is because I actually don't want to see the straight down, because that looks like a lot of people in a lot of pain. So I don't know. We're not going to get to a place where we can actually have that discussion, and things are just going to go how they go. It's unfortunate though, because we have the capacity for self-awareness, right? We have the capacity for self-awareness that other animals do not have. And so, but we're letting that go. We're giving that capacity up by saying, we can't talk about this. We have to, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but we have to let God decide, right? We can't talk about this. We got to let God decide. You're giving up your capacity for self-awareness completely. Okay. All right, man, I'm going to let you go.
Self-actualization.
Yep.
You're giving up the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yep. Well, all right, man. Thanks for the call.
Hey, no problem. Let's get to this Twitter stuff now.
Yeah. All right. That's cool. You know, I think we actually, I think we talked all around that. All right, before we get into, I do actually have a little, I have enough time to talk about this Twitter stuff for a little while. We can go a little longer today than an hour. Thanks for hanging out, guys, on a Saturday. Thanks for hanging on the call-in people, and thanks for calling in. You've all been very, very insightful. Like inciting a riot. No, I'm kidding. No. It's just my bad dad jokes. Got a tip on the Rockfins. Got a few tips. Thanks. Basil got a tip from Basil. Thank you. Kameshwari Kate says, talk about the other story, please. I want to know what is going on. Thanks, Kameshwari Kate. Here we go. All right. So what happened was that Twitter released some documents about how they had meddled. They meddled in the Hunter Biden laptop story. And Elon Musk has even said, well, that is basically meddling in the election, right? Not just, it wasn't just Twitter. It was a lot of entities, right? You could probably say it was intelligence communities. You could probably say, it was a lot of different entities. Anyways, before I get too far down the beaten path, let's get straight to this from Matt Taibbi. This is what people are saying about this. This is just what people are saying. And this is what is being said on Twitter about Twitter. From Matt Taibbi, what you're about to read is the first installment in a series based upon thousands of internal documents obtained by sources at Twitter. The Twitter Files tells an incredible story from inside one of the world's largest and most influential social media platforms. It is a Frankensteinian tale of a human-built mechanism grown out of control of its designer. Twitter, in its conception, was a brilliant tool for enabling instant mass communication, making a true real-time global conversation possible for the first time. In an early conception, Twitter more than lived up to its mission statement, giving people the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. As time progressed, however, the company was slowly forced to add those barriers. Some of the first tools for controlling speech were designed to combat the likes of spam and financial fraudsters. Slowly, over time, Twitter staff and executives began to find more and more uses for these tools. Outsiders began petitioning the company to manipulate speech as well, first a little, then more often, then constantly. By 2020, requests from connected actors to delete tweets were routine. One executive would write to another, more to review from the Biden team. The reply would come back, handled. And here's a excerpt from, I guess this is an email. Celebrities and unknowns alike could be removed or reviewed at the behest of a political party. And they're referencing the real James Woods here, the actor James Woods, right? Who's famously, right-wing, but has been censored quite a bit on Twitter. Both parties had access to these tools. For instance, in 2020, requests from both the Trump White House and the Biden campaign were received and honored. However, this system wasn't balanced. It was based on contacts. Because Twitter was and is overwhelmingly staffed by people of one political orientation, there were more channels, more ways to complain, open to the left or Democrats than the right. And I guess I'm guessing this is contributions to particular parties by people at Twitter, right? It was all going to Democrats and not to Republicans. There were very few Republicans there. All right. The resulting slant in content moderation decisions is visible in the documents you're about to read. However, it's also the assessment of multiple current and former high-level executives. Okay, there was more throat clearing about the process, but screw it. Let's jump forward. 16, the Twitter Files, Part 1, How and Why Twitter Blocked the Hunter Biden Laptop Story. On October 14th, 2020, the New York Post published Biden's secret emails, an expose based on the contents of Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop. And this is from New York Post, right? It was this famous story from the New York Post basically breaking the story and then getting censored on Twitter. People were sharing this story on Twitter, and then they suppressed it. Twitter took extraordinary steps to suppress the story, removing links and posting warnings that it may be unsafe. Unsafe to read, guys. It's unsafe to read things. They even blocked its transmission via direct message, a tool hitherto reserved for extreme cases, e.g. child pornography. White House spokeswoman Kayleigh McEnany, I can't remember how to pronounce her name, was locked out of her account for tweeting about the story, prompting a furious letter from Trump campaign staffer Mike Hahn, who seethed, "At least pretend to care for the next 20 days." Right? This is the middle of a political campaign, right? Presidential race. And he's saying all she did was cite the story, firsthand reporting that has been reported by other outlets and not disputed by the Biden campaign. I need an answer immediately on how and when she will be unlocked. That's pretty wild. This is a White House spokeswoman being locked out of her Twitter account. Wild, right? Imagine Karine Jean-Pierre being locked out of her Twitter account because a particular platform didn't like what she was saying. Let's keep going. This led public policy executive Carolyn Strom to send out a polite WTF query. Several employees noted that there was tension between the comms and policy teams, who had less control over moderation than the safety trust teams. Right. Strom's note returned the answer that the laptop story had been removed for violation of the company's hacked materials policy. Although several sources recalled hearing about a general warning from federal law enforcement that summer about possible foreign hacks, there's no evidence that I've seen of any government involvement in the laptop story. In fact, that might have been the problem. The decision was made at the highest levels of the company, but without the knowledge of CEO Jack Dorsey, with former head of legal, policy, and trust, Vijaya Gadde, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, playing a key role. They just freelanced it, is how one former employee characterized the decision. By the way, YouTube, I'm just reading this story from, I'm reading these files that have been released from Twitter, and I'm reading an account of these files for informational purposes. By the way, yeah, I mean, this isn't new news, right? This isn't new news. We all know, I mean, a lot of people already knew this happened and what went on. It's just, it's being confirmed, right? By Twitter documents, right? It's being confirmed by Twitter documents. You can see the confusion in the following lengthy exchange, which ends up including Gadde and former Trust and Safety Chief Yoel Roth. Comms official Trenton Kennedy writes, "I'm struggling to understand the policy basis for marking this as unsafe." Wow. So somebody's questioning. Somebody's questioning internally, why is this marked as unsafe? By this point, everyone knows this was effed, said one former employee, but the response was essentially to err on the side of continuing to err. Anyways, we're erring on the side of including a warning and preventing this content from being amplified. So they suppressed it. Former VP of Global Comms, Brandon Borman, asked, can we truthfully claim that this is part of the policy? To which former Deputy Counsel Jim Baker again seemed to advise staying the non-course because caution is warranted. I support the conclusion that we need more facts to assess whether the materials were hacked. At this stage, however, it is reasonable for us to assume that they may have been and that caution is warranted. There are some facts that indicate the materials have been hacked, while others indicate that the computer was either abandoned and or the owner consented to allow the repair shop to access it for at least some purposes. We simply need more information. Joseph, I see you. I will take your call in a minute, okay? A fundamental problem with tech companies and content moderation. Many people in charge of speech know and care little about speech and have to be told the basics by outsiders. To wit, in one humorous exchange on day one, Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna, you guys know who Ro Khanna is, reaches out to Gotti to gently suggest she hop on the phone to talk about the backlash regarding speech. Khanna was the only Democrat official I could find in the files who expressed concern. Wow. So the Democrats didn't really care. Even the progressive, Ro Khanna is in the progressive caucus. But even all the other progressives were like, yeah, we're fine. These firebrands. These people fighting for your rights. Gade replies quickly, immediately diving into the weeds of Twitter policy, unaware Khanna is more worried about the Bill of Rights. Khanna tries to reroute the conversation to the First Amendment, mention of which is generally hard to find in the files. This seems a violation of the First Amendment principles. If there is a hack of classified information or other information that could expose a serious war crime, and the New York Times was to publish it, I think the New York Times should have that right. A journalist should not be held accountable for the illegal actions of the source unless they actively aided the hack. Right? So this, goes back to, he's actually citing a legal precedent, which says, and this is also talked about with Julian Assange, that he did not hack the materials he released, right? He released materials that were given to him, and under the law and the rules of journalism, you are allowed to release these things, right? As for public knowledge, in the course of journalism. A journalist should not be held accountable for the legal actions of the source unless they actively aided the hack. So, to restrict the distribution of the material, especially regarding a presidential candidate, seems not in the keeping of the principles of the New York Times versus Sullivan. That's the case he's citing. I say this as a total Biden partisan and convinced he didn't do anything wrong, but the story now has become more about censorship than relatively innocuous emails, and it's become a bigger deal than it would have been. I don't know about that. It also is now leading to serious efforts to curtail Section 230, many of which would have been a mistake. I believe Twitter itself should curtail what it recommends or puts in trending news, and your policy against QAnon groups is all good. It's a hard balance. But in the heat of the presidential campaign, restricting dissemination of newspaper articles, even if the New York Post is far right, of course, I don't, whatever. Seems like it will invite more backlash than it will do good. Please keep this communication just between us, etc., etc. Within a day ahead of public policy Lauren Culberson receives a ghastly letter report from Carl Sabo of the research firm Net Choice, which had already polled 12 members of Congress, 9 R's, and 3 Democrats from the House Judiciary Committee to Representative Judy Chu's office. Anyways, I think that's the end of that. That's the end of that particular thread, and I think he's supposed to have another thread today. Okay, we're going to take this call from Joseph, and we'll talk about this for a little bit. Joseph, how you doing? Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm pressing the button. There you go.
There it goes. Okay.
How you doing?
Everything's good now. For a while there, it was really lonely.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Well, on what you were just saying, real quick, it's the reverse. Their whole activity is to cover the tracks of the perpetrator rather than what's being exposed. That's really scary.
Yep.
And I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but on the reverse, on what you were saying earlier, the last 3 callers, how would you guys all feel about a panel where we all have a communication live regarding that topic? Because that leads to every blockade there is knowledge-wise that I run into every day with anybody. All has to do with people's rights to believe their religion and their reproductive stuff. And nobody's attacking that as the way you and I and most people that are environmentally conscious, we're not attacking someone's right to reproduce. We're attacking the reasonable nature of the quantity of reproduction in all of it.
Right.
And you can write down the line, the less industry, the more your rights to reproduce make sense with the environment around you.
Right.
The more industry you have, the less it makes sense, because each person you bring into it drags along a huge, 500 barrel of oil a day consumption just to sustain them.
Right.
Yeah. So what you're doing is great, because that conversation the words I'm saying right now, that falls on deaf ears before another conversation, which is what you're trying to have.
Yeah. It's hard. It's just a hard conversation to have. However, and it goes, I think, too, also the root of, one of the callers mentioned like socialism, and that's, it's weird because we see freedom as the ability to do, what we want, the best for ourselves, right? We see, like the people that are more freedom minded, the people on the right, or maybe, people who are Christian or what, right? They don't like the socialist, community, decisions about things, right? Like I want the ability to get my stuff and get all the stuff and do for me and do for my family. I want the ability to just have, I don't want anybody imposing on that right to do that. And it's a political debate on some levels, but it's like a societal debate. And it's like, if we are, we do.
Can I interject something?
Yeah.
You said community in exactly the right place. And boy, isn't that the real discussion, because all the things you said are dependent on a sense of community that is suspended outside of nature. Right. And once you take that structure that's suspended against, then that definition of community breaks down pretty damn quickly. Even within their church, without all the industry, they're reduced to sticks and stones like anybody else. And then their sense of community has to be changed.
Right.
And that's really what we're talking about here. In your last 3 discussions, that's what you're talking about. It's like, well, if you want to have this discussion next time drawn in the dirt with sticks while someone's throwing rocks at us for whatever food we're dragging around with us, sure. Keep on reproducing and going the way you're going.
Right. And, it's like freedom versus, doing what's best for the community. There's a there's a balance there, you know.
And how inclusive is that?
And
right?
I feel like, you know, we should there's nothing wrong, you know, if we can't have this discussion as a community, then how can we make a decision on, you know, and freedom is, you know, limited, right? I mean, I believe in basic freedoms. However, do you have the freedom to destroy things, you know, destroy land or destroy, right?
Well, where does that end, right?
Where does it
Do you have where's the? Do you have the right to take the elephant and its territory over so it can't do the things it's been doing for countless millions of years,
right?
Or the lion,
and you can
or the penguin.
You can flip freedom on all kinds of ways, right? Like go back to slavery, like, well, you know, we want to abolish slavery. Well, you're impinging on my right to own slaves. Well, okay, you know, my freedom don't. Okay, well, maybe your freedom isn't, you know, your freedom might be impinging on other people, whether you know it or not.
And where you're going to come down to these discussions in the end is going to be a religious view versus a spiritual Lao Tzu type of view, where it's, well, we believe in freedom and we believe in custodianship over God's creation, and that's a personal rub with me, because it was God's creation, but you'll only love it and custodialize it as long as you determine what freedom is
right.
and remake it to serve you.
Right. Right. We all end up wanting to be selfish on some levels in our worldview and in our goals and what we think is right or wrong, and you know, that's just how we do it, right? But you know,
so isn't that underlying your conversations that you just had? Pretty much exactly.
Yes, and that's the thing is, you know, sometimes you got to make rules for the community, or you know, decisions for the community, and not everybody is going to agree. You know, not everybody's going to agree, but somebody has to go, sorry, that's just the way it is. I know it's weird, and I'm not, you know, these are hard conversations, but still,
right.
If you can't agree on anything, if you can't make any rules about anything, then you kind of have a free for all, right? We have rules in place to protect people from certain things. We do. We actually have regulations and rules that protect people from certain things, from being poisoned, from being, you know, from being impinged upon in certain ways, right? These
functional
rules,
or not, yes.
Right? These rules are in place, to, you know, to stop bad things from happening to people, and people on some levels have agreed that, you know, and somebody's not going to like those rules. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. You got to get got to have another discussion about it and get enough people together that agree that maybe the rules should be changed. I don't know.
Well, I would love to see that conversation repeated again, you know, with a group, like the same people. And just listening to that was fascinating. You know, it was like, wow, this goes to some really deep stuff, and this is really what we're up against.
It does. And I am, you know, I'm as passionate about these subjects as anybody else, right? And so, like,
sure.
I you know, it's funny. I can be very passionate when talking to people about this stuff. You know,
that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. And, well, it's also, I'm passionate about it because precisely because it's so hard to have the conversation. Right? You just cannot. Yeah. Everywhere I go, all over Rockfin, all over everywhere. You know, people it's just a consensus. It's absolutely like 100% like, no, you can't do that. You can't have that conversation. It's like, why? You know, it's always dystopian. It's always like, well, that sounds like some dystopian eugenicist Malthusian, you know, stuff. I'm like, I don't know.
It's all people, you know, everything that the religions are built of people's beliefs that have changed according to what the needs and self-believed in purpose of the community is. So it's not to say that there's no truth in the religion, but the religion has definitely changed over time to match current conditions along the way. And to get people to reasonably look at that without coming apart, regardless of whether they're atheists and against religion or they're completely devoted and religious, it's the same argument and discussion. It's just from opposite ends of the same gun.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking down the same barrel just in a different direction.
Oh, I mean, a couple of things come to mind. Well, I'm going to read Osama posted something. The nationalist not only does not disapprove of atrocities committed by his own side, but he has a remarkable capacity for not even hearing about them. From George Orwell. Meaning, I mean, this actually applies to the Twitter conversation, but it also applies to the thing we're talking about too, right? My side and my people and how I think. That's, you know, we don't
Right.
see what we're doing. We can't even acknowledge what we're doing. We can't even comprehend it, you know. But somebody else from the other side can totally see what, you know, and go, hey, what about that? All right, man. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say, oh crap, I lost it.
It's not just me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it just we see things how we want to see them, and you know, it's really hard because that's what I remember. Just remembered. I was listening to somebody talking about Clockwork Orange film, the Stanley Kubrick film, and the writer, the quote from the Anthony Burgess who wrote it said something like, liberalism allows for atrocities to get, you know, and then, you know, the compassion and the freedom of liberalism kind of allows for people to open the door to be, you know, walked on. I think it's the same conversation we're having right now, right? This thing that I'm paraphrasing it in such a horrible way, but he was like, this like kind of free and open, you know, liberal society kind of allows for its own atrocities to take place, you know, for really crazy things to take place, because you're always supposed to err on the side of, you know, being a liberal, being like, you know, oh no, that's fine, that's totally fine, right? And we're still having that conversation today about like, what do we allow in our discourse? What do we allow, you know, in our society? What are we allowing to happen by not taking a stand on something, by not actually, you know, making a decision on something, by not, you know, saying like, well, there are limits to some of these things, right? There are limits.
It's holding up an aphasia of what it's holding up a belief system of what's prim and proper, the same as a right wing or conservative group might do.
It's right. It's all the same, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, here's one more example is that bodily autonomy was totally upheld by Republicans when it came to the vaccines, but when you turn it around to abortion, oh my God,
right?
No,
exactly.
sir, right? It's like, well, come on now.
And
what are you for
know,
bodily autonomy, or are you not? You know what I mean? It's not. You know, it's like, I don't know.
I agree. It's a really hard thing to approach from group to group.
Yeah.
So I think involving a group conversation might be a good.
Yeah, it actually would be an interesting panel. It would be.
If nothing else, it'll be that.
Maybe there's a way to. I wonder if there's a way. I'm probably not, but it would be cool. Maybe I can get multiple callers at once on calling. I haven't even really like thought about looking at that.
Well, that's what gave me the idea. The app says, the app says, invite.
Can I invite multiple callers in? I guess maybe I can.
It looks like you can.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't know. I'm trying to keep up with all the technology that I'm using, and I can't even like. It's like I don't even have time to like investigate. Like, how does this app work? You know, I'm just like, can I just get it functioning enough to like take calls? That's all.
These things are kind of maddening. Yeah.
Right. All right, man. I'll let you go. And
good talk. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Joseph, thank you. All right. Obsolete Optics is back. How you doing?
Yo, I just wanted to pop in real quick to say, yeah, you can invite callers to be speakers, and you can also make speakers into moderators so that they can answer calls for you and mute people.
Yeah, cool.
Ban them from the chat if necessary.
I see the invite to speak. Okay, right. It's just a matter of like poking around here. Okay,
Yep.
Good to know. All right, so yeah, maybe we'll do that someday. We'll have a bunch of people calling. We'll have a bunch of people all at the same time. That'll be fun. All right, man. Thanks.
No problem.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you get? Do you guys? You know, there are people talking about the Twitter revelations as if like, well, yeah, we knew that happened, right? This is just a confirmation. But in a world where things are kind of, there is a backlash. Like what Ro Khanna said was correct, and you can actually trace a line between the extreme censorship, social media censorship of last year to now. You can trace a line of you know, there is a definite pushback on censorship. There's a definite feeling that people want to have their right to speak. They want to be able to speak freely about all kinds of things, and they don't want to be shut down, right? And culminating, you know, I don't know if, I don't mean this is the end, but kind of culminating in Elon Musk buying Twitter, saying we're going to be open to free speech, even if it's not really being upheld on Twitter totally, right? Yet. But there's an arc, right? There's an arc of what's going on, of history. Ro Khanna, you know, kudos to Ro Khanna. Kudos to Ro Khanna for pushing back on this and for calling it, you know, as it should have been seen. Like, people are going to be upset about this, and rightly so. And where does that leave us now? Where does that leave us now? I mean, things are starting to. Going South says Jackson Hinkle had the best take on Twittergate. What was that? What was the best take? If you could. Slava says, how is it censorship of the story was all over the news anyways? Well, I mean, I guess I guess that's, you know, that's what happens is when you try to censor something or you try to suppress something, it becomes, you know, you have the opposite effect. I don't know if people want to call that the Streisand effect. You have the opposite effect of magnifying the story, right? Oh, they're suppressing the story. Oh, look at this. Look, right? Where they, you know, the story could have come out and people would have said, oh my God, look at what's happening, right? And the story might have gone away, you know, in a, you know, in the 24-hour like digital age news cycle where things are only news stories for, you know, a couple of hours, right? The story might have kind of burned itself out pretty quickly, or people would have said like, oh, well, look at that. That's kind of interesting. But instead, by suppressing it, they made it more visible. So and I think that's the backlash. I don't know. I don't know what Going South, if you want to expound on what you mean, what Hinkle's, I don't know what his take was. I don't actually watch Jackson Hinkle unless he's on Jimmy Dore. I don't really. It's not necessarily my cup of tea. Well, anyways, I think. Oh, hello, Jenny. How you doing? We'll welcome back Jenny back into the call. Colin.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I just finished uploading my video. I did a video today on what happened to Twitter.
Okay.
And
what's your take?
I'm a longtime Q person, so
right.
This is a fulfillment of a drop that came out talking about when do birds sing, and so I see this as a fulfillment of that. Twitter is singing, and there were lots of lots of things tied to Twitter in the Q drops. And so that was kind of the feeling of my video today.
Okay. Yeah, I used to follow Q and I don't really anymore, so I don't really know what's going on in that world. However, I don't know. There's a million takes on what's going on with Twitter for sure. Like, a lot of people think that this is all a way to get everybody into this like everything app or this Chinese Weibo style app, right? That Twitter will ultimately become this like everything app that controls your life, like Weibo controls your life in China. That's one take.
Well, and
That's one take
when
on
I talked
what's going on.
when I talked to you earlier, I mentioned Whitney Webb. You know her,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
She's been doing a bunch of interviews recently to promote her new book.
Uh,
And so she tossed out the idea in an interview that this is exactly who Elon is and what he's doing, and we should all be watching it very closely. And I agree. I mean, I figure we should be watching everything really closely.
yeah.
But I believe Elon was someone who's captured the same way that Kanye and Sam Bankman-Fried and all of these others who've played positions in our culture was captured, and that he was freed. I think Elon has been freed. And I think he is.
What do you think about Tulsi Gabbard?
I don't know. She's World Economic Forum, so I don't know.
But
I don't
can
know.
she be freed too?
Exactly. No, I absolutely think she could be. I think many of them already have been.
Yeah.
I think certain artists are signaling that they're free, like Britney Spears, big time. Lady Gaga, she's been writing some songs that,
That's interesting.
it's like they've broken free from their handlers. They're no longer wearing the satanic costuming, writing the evil songs. They're writing songs about love and relationships and positive things, where before it was all dark. And you
Yeah.
can kind of see the artists who are still caught in that satanic thing, who are just absolutely writing songs about everything dark and evil.
Right.
And when they get freed, they start talking about Jesus.
Okay. Okay.
So, I mean, that's what Kanye did.
Okay. Well,
But,
that's interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to be slightly careful because I'm still on YouTube. So I
Okay, sorry.
don't even know what the rules are really right now.
I
so
won't.
I'm just
I
telling
won't
you.
say the P word.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's just trying to
But
keep it.
there are many of us who think that Balenciaga is
Yeah,
that gate personified,
sure.
and that the Q drops indicating that all of this is going to be exposed in due time. It's happening. It's happening right now. So
Well,
I'm very excited.
I will say, just to wrap this up, because I do need to go, but the Balenciaga story is interesting, and it's again in that arc of people being able to talk about things. It's interesting how unable they are to suppress it. Right, like it's out there,
Well,
and people are talking
to
about
me-
it, and it's kind of got a lot more like fire on it than if you remember the P-gate story was pretty suppressed.
Well, the most interesting tweet from Matt Taibbi last night to me was the one that mentioned the suppression of QAnon. And I think it was the email they got from the politician who said,
Right.
"Oh, I'm totally down with those QAnon people not being." That is just evidence of the way that all of us. 'Cause I lost my Twitter, but that's the evidence that all of us were being so suppressed, who were pounding this story on our own blogs.
Right.
And now I'm on Substack, and we were talking about it, we were investigating it. I was the moderator for the largest and oldest P-gate research forum on Facebook.
Right.
And there came a day when it was just gone. My whole account, our group, gone.
They totally, I mean, they slammed it. It's we'll see where this goes because it's interesting because it's out there. We'll see where it goes.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Thanks for taking my call again.
For sure. Thanks, Jenny. All right. One more call and then I gotta go. Obsolete Optics, how you doing?
Sorry for calling in so much,
You're
but
good.
it's just funny what Jenny said about getting suspended. Like of course they'll suspend your account. They'll call you an anti-Semite and all this other stuff. But if you ever notice, they don't ever call you a liar.
Right. 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 I mean, that's, it's always something nebulous, It's always
Right.
like community guidelines, safety.
Yep.
So
All these vague rules that are 10,000
right,
pages
right.
long.
You can't really
who even
point to
actually looks at the privacy policy and community guidelines before they click I agree.
right. Nobody does that, and then, but there's no, it's rarely are any of these strikes or warnings or takedowns. Rarely do they ever hash out the facts, right? Like this is we're
Right.
doing this because you did this, and it's like, did I do that? Well, I don't know. Can we have a conversation? No, it's just like vague reasons, and we're not going to really tell you about it. And best of luck to you. Right? So
Right. Like I've gotten put in Facebook jail just for sharing memes.
right. Yeah, I haven't been there yet, Facebook jail, but I actually haven't been in Twitter jail, but I've had my my YouTube. Actually, my strike just fell off yesterday, so I applied to be remonetized. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I'll let you guys know how that goes. Because
Hopefully you get super chats back.
I can get super chats back, possibly. Yeah. All right, man.
Earlier when you were looking for takes on this whole Twitter thing, I was scrolling Twitter to find some good takes. I found a good one from Sally Mayweather, Sal
Okay.
the Agorist.
Okay.
As
Sal the
Twitter
Agorist,
suspended everyone. Twitter suspended everyone who claimed the 2020 election was rigged because they were the ones rigging it.
Right. Well, there you go.
Let's not forget they also tried to rig the 2016 election. Remember Donna Brazile slipping Hillary's campaign the debate questions ahead of time?
Ooh, you're treading on dangerous ground there, son.
I'm sure that after getting away with it both times,
right.
this most recent election in key swing states like Arizona and Pennsylvania was by the book.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, right. There's a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions. All right, man. Thanks so much. Appreciate you calling in, and thanks for the support, man.
Appreciate you taking my call.
Yep. All right, guys, I really do gotta head on out of here, because I got the things to do. But thanks for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. Thanks for hanging out with me every day on these here interwebs. And I'll see you all tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Standard. Until next time, peace.